I believe we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business of Property. We have superstar Tony Meredith from Tony Meredith Coaching. If you haven't noticed his the fancy backdrop there. Great logo, by the way, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
So good to have you back. We've missed you.
Thank you. I've missed you.
Excellent. We'll do all the hugs and kisses when we are able to, and hopefully Queensland doesn't block us out again anytime soon. I have a feeling it might be that might be happening.
Well, not after we've got to take the NRL Grand Final first. So we've got the AFL sewn up. So we now want the NRL Grand Final. We want the netball. We want the A-League. We want all the sports north of the border. That's what's happening at the moment. That's our ploy here in Queensland, to just pick all the national sporting events and plonk them in our state. Is that okay?
Wait, you lost me. You started talking sport. It's a property page, Tony. Focus.
Focus. Sorry.
Well, thank you everyone for being here on Facebook land. That's in the Zoom chat room. Say a big welcome to Tony here. We are going to be talking about, and I love having Tony here because we always talk about the big thing and the psychology around and the mindset around property, because that's a huge thing which either stops us, scares us, brings a whole lot of fear behind the things that we do.
That's it. That's it. So success in property for me comes down to three elements, right? It comes down to, the first one is knowledge, right? So you need to have some knowledge. You need to know what it is that you're doing, right? That's the first element. I believe that's about 10%. The second element comes down to skills. So just because you know something doesn't mean that you're automatically good at it. And in fact, the Chinese proverb is to know and not to do is to not know at all. So just because you know it, if you choose not to do anything with it, then what does it really matter, right? So you've got to have some skills, right? So that's the second element, that's 15%. But the remaining element is 75%, and that sits in between your ears. And that's your psychology, your attitudes, your mindset. They're the things that keep you going, because your journey in property development is going to be like that, probably more like this, right? And so the reality is that whilst we're up here, that's awesome. But it's when you're down here, what's going to keep you moving forward. And so psychology is so important. But the thing is that what I teach, whilst yes, it may apply to psychology, to property, yes, it may apply to small business, but it also applies to your life, right? And so you can take some of these skills and they're transferable in every facet of your life.
Exactly what you're saying. And one of the things I'm noticing in the current environment, something, pretty sort of challenging has been happening in the world the last 7 months. I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. We're getting a lot of that sort of that fear and doubt, and people are sort of, and rightfully so. There's been so much change that's been happening.
Yeah.
How do we keep positive through all these challenges, whether it's life, whether it's projects? And like you said, you can very much apply the mindset side of things in property to life, obviously. How do we keep looking forward and not at what the challenges are?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well, certainly fear is a reason that people don't move forward, right? So that's it, whether it be with COVID-19, whether it be just generally, right? So fear hasn't just come about because of what's happening with, with the coronavirus. Like, it's been around forever, and it will be around forever moving forward. And, fear is a good thing because, in parts, because you want the emotion of fear to kick in when you're in genuine danger. Right? When you're in genuine danger, that's the whole idea of fear. The problem is that we get caught up with irrational fear. And the biggest fear that we have is the fear of being criticized by other people. So we don't want to do something because ultimately we're fearful of being criticized, because as humans, we're a herd mentality, right? And so we like to stay connected with people, and we like to do things, collectively. And so we do something outside of that, and it's a bit different, then people will criticize you. And particularly then if you proceed, so property is risky, right? So property development is risky. And people will say when you start off, don't do that, it's risky, it's, leave it to the big boys or the experts or whatever it might be. And a lot of people go, oh my gosh, they must be right, and I'm not going to do anything. right? Whereas what you do here in Property Development Australia is you say, well, hang on a second, as humans, we're connected, but why don't we create our own herd of people over here, right? And so then it's like, well, this herd, which might be my friends and family who are criticizing me, who aren't quite sure what this property thing is, I'm going to go and spend time with this herd over here because I know they get me. And I know they're going to understand me, they're going to support me, they're going to collaborate, and they're going to cooperate and all those types of things. So it's important to understand that fear is the thing that stops us. Now, going back to COVID-19 specifically, well, it comes down to control what you can control, right? So this COVID-19 thing has come, it's started, it's getting worse in certain states, but it's out of our control in the sense of there are things that you can do. You can social distance, you can practice good hygiene, right? There are things that you can do. You can wear masks, whatever it might be, but there are things that are going to be out of your control. So in the property space, right, it's all around what is it that I can do to keep moving forward. So for example, what I've been suggesting to people is that if you're going to go and put an offer in on a particular property, then why don't you wind down the sale price? Right? Why don't you put in some additional pressure testers so you wind down the sale price? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. If you go and get yourself into a townhouse project, well, that townhouse project is going to be, 18, 24 months in length. So you don't know what's going to happen. So you wind down the sale price. But when you're in a position of buying, always remember that the vendor has to sell, you don't have to buy. And so if it's not at the price that's right for you, don't buy it. Move on. But this is where another fear kicks in, which is the wonderful fear called FOMO. Right? And it's like, oh my gosh, this is the only property in the whole world that's for me, and there's never ever going to be another one, and I've got to make this one work. And it's like, that's rubbish. That's called scarcity, right? And so that's a mindset. The mindset is scarcity, being there aren't the opportunities out there, so I must make this one work. Whereas the other way to look at it, which is how I view the world, is abundance. And abundance says that the deal of the century happens every week. And this one may not work, but that's cool. Move beyond that, get to the next one, because that one may work. And if that doesn't, that's cool. Keep going, keep going, keep going until you find the one that works.
Yeah. And I love how you mentioned the word abundance. Because they said it's a really strong word. I write it on my board because particularly when we're going through challenging times, we're all about, I don't have enough of funds, time, whatever, I don't have enough. Whereas if you switch it to an abundant mindset, that it's open to, it attracts a certain, a shift in energy, whatever it is.
Of course it is. Well, it's called seek and you shall find, right? So what does that mean? So in our brains, at the base of our brains, we have this thing called the RAS, R-A-S, or Reticular Activating System. And what it does is we can't possibly compute all the things that are going on around us, right? So this RAS says, well, hang on a second, we need to filter out all the things that we don't think are applicable, and we're only going to let through the things that we think are applicable, right? And so take the example that you're saying, that if I can't find this, if I don't have the resources, if I can't find a deal, if the market's going to be dreadful, but there's no opportunities for me, seek and I shall find means I will find no money, I will find no deals, I will find negativity everywhere, right? Because I'm seeking that out. Whereas if you flip that around and you say to yourself, how do I? What do I need to do? Who do I need to speak to? How can I be resourceful, right? If I haven't got money, okay, you haven't got money. What can I do in lieu of the fact that I don't have money? Do I either go and get money myself? Do I go and get a joint venture partner, etc., right? If I can't find a deal and I keep saying to myself, I can't find a deal, there's no deals, there's no deals, well, guess what? There will be no deals, right? But when you say to yourself, the deal for me is out there, I just haven't worked hard enough to find it yet. And what else can I do to find it? Right. So I'm saying the opposite, taking me towards where I want to get to, as opposed to I can't.
Yeah. Just I can.
But we all can, right? Yeah. We all can, right? And so, it's all about the language that you say to yourself, right? It's the things so I often say, be careful of what you say to yourself, because your mind is listening. Right, so you have all these thoughts around, I can't do this, it's too hard, this property development's it's not for me, I'm never going to be successful, I'm never going to find a deal. Well, guess what? You never, ever, ever will. Right? As opposed to going, well, I haven't found a deal. So you don't BS yourself, right? If you haven't found a deal, you haven't found one. but what else can I do to find it? And am I doing enough? And who else can I call? And where else can I look? And can I send some letters? And can I call some more agents? And blah, 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 blah. There's so much activity that we can do to find that something. It's just that people aren't prepared to do what's required to be successful, right? And I remember, I think it was Gary Vee who said, if you want a 1% life, that is with the top 1% of the world, you have to do what the 1% do. And the 1%, they put in the effort, right? They put in the effort, they work hard, right? I have a saying, which is, or it's an acronym, which is CAPE, right? Consistent and persistent effort. That's what's required. It's about doing things consistently over a period of time, being patient for the results, being disconnected from the outcome. That is, I'm focusing on the things that I can do. So let me give you an example in property speak. I had this conversation yesterday, right? So if I go and put an offer in, right, that's what I can control, right? So I can control the properties that I search for, the offers that I submit, the price that I submit. That's what I can control. But I can't control if the vendor is going to accept my offer or not, right? So I don't get worried about it because I think about what is it that I can do. Does that make sense? Now, if the vendor doesn't accept it, well, then I've got a choice. I can either A, go, okay, I'm going to adjust my offer, or B, if it doesn't work for my feasibility, I say, thank you very much, and I move on to the next one. Now, I may not totally forget about that property. I might loop back in a month's time and just see what's happening. And eventually, if it doesn't move, then perhaps the vendors may shift their price, right? But I can only control the things that I can do, and I can't control stuff that the vendor is responsible for. So it's about disconnecting yourself from the outcome, right? And just focusing on what can I do? And it applies then to COVID, right? It's like disconnect yourself from the outcome. Like COVID's dreadful, right? People are dying, people are getting sick, people have lost jobs. It's dreadful, right? I don't for one moment put my head in the sand to think it's not, because it is. But I think to myself, what can I do with my business? And my business has been affected by COVID. I mean, I've got two businesses, right? I do this coaching, and I've also got my property development business. So they've been both affected. But not for one day have I said, oh my gosh, this is too hard. I keep getting up and going, what else can I do? What else do I need to do to make this happen? Because they're my business. And if I stop, then the whole thing stops, right? And so I get it. I get that it's scary. I get that it's uncertain. But you've got to create the certainty by creating your own future.
What are some strategies there, Tony? And you talk about, obviously you've been impacted. A lot of people have been impacted. What are the strategies that people can take away from this to be able to say, we'll come back to projects, for example,
Sure.
Prior to any sort of government grants and things like that, a lot of developers and a lot of agents were struggling with getting sales, and I guess depending on what sort of stock you have, you may still be struggling with getting sales for your developments here. For example, you're needing off the plan sales or whatever to be able to wrap up your project. What are the strategies there for people to be able to handle that level of uncertainty and stress in that time where the clock is ticking? Time is money. Tick, 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 tick. Your loan repayments are up to this. The bank's not that far off from knocking on the door. How would you sort of say people put in steps to deal with that without
Sure. Let me go understand. So let me go back a few steps. So the first thing is, so I've boiled down personal development. Now this is my view, to three things, right? That's it. So I'm very simple. You've known me for a long time, and you know that I'm a very simple guy, and I try to boil things down and make personal development simple for people to understand. Three things. The first is why. So why do you want to do property development in the first place? It's not easy. It's challenging. Right? So why do you want to do it in the first place, right? You need to be deeply connected, and it's not money. Money is not the answer. If you're sitting there going, oh, it's all about money, you've got it all wrong, right? Your why needs to come from within you, right? So what is the why that you're doing the property development for? The next one is the what. What's your what? What's your goal? What are you going for? Right? What's that thing? So it might be a 6-month goal, a 1-year goal, a 5-year goal, doesn't matter. Right? What's your goal that you're going for? And the last piece, and you need to be extremely clear on that, right? And my point there is, it's like a GPS, right? So when I want to go to a new destination, I don't just type in the suburb and hope that I miraculously arrive at the destination. I type in the street number, the street name, the suburb, and guess what? I arrive. Same happens with our mind, right? So the clearer that you can be on what you want, the easier it is for you to get there. So it's your why, your what, and the last one is belief. You have to believe that you can do this, right? It's about creating the certainty. It all starts with the belief. I'll give you a real life example. So Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile back in 1954. The fact that he did that was amazing, right? The fact that he broke the 4-minute mile, because men for years and years and years couldn't do it. They said it can't be done, and if it's going to be done, it's got to be done on a picture perfect day, no breeze, etc. Right? And he broke it. He broke it in 1954. And if I've got the date wrong, I apologize, but it's around there. That's amazing, but that's not the end of the story. Right? What happened was, a month later, an Australian broke his record. And then a year later, the first 3 place getters in a mile race all finished under 4 minutes. So what do I mean by that? I mean is that this record that was impossible, or this feat that was impossible, it was achieved, it was broken, 4 minutes was broken. And now all these other people go, oh my gosh, if that guy can do it, why can't I do it? Right? And that's the whole belief thing. So you have to believe that you can do it. Now, the great thing is that no matter what people on here are trying to achieve and where you're at in your property journey, I'll guarantee you that someone's forged the path ahead of you. Someone's already done it. So follow the path. They've laid down the blueprint. They've left the breadcrumbs. Follow the path. That's what they've done, right? So they're the 3 things with personal development. Now, come back to your question, which was around, how do I deal with the ups, the downs, the banks, the this not selling, that not selling? Well, it's called resilience, right? That it boils down to resilience. That's what it's all about. But it's about being so fixated on your goal that nothing's going to throw you off course, because it's not linear. When you sit here today on the 21st of July, you say, hey, I've got this goal at the end of the year. Trust me, your journey will not be a nice straight line, just comfortably. I'm going along to my goal. I'm going to get there. It doesn't work that way. Right? You're going to go left, you're going to go right, you're going to go up, you're going to go down, but it's about going, I am so committed to achieving that goal. Nothing is going to knock me off course, right? And yes, there's going to be things that will try to. There's going to be things that come at me from left field and right field and in front of me and behind me and all those types of things. But that goal means so much to me. And this is why people don't achieve their New Year's resolutions. This happens every year. I call this the 1st of January effect, right? Why? Because they'll do a New Year's resolution because society says we should do that, right? Now, one of the biggest reasons why people fall short is there's not the connectedness to that goal, right? But the reason why people accomplish their goals, you think about why a goal that you've accomplished in the past, it's because you've said to yourself, I must do this. Like, I've got to do this. Nothing's going to stop me from doing this thing. And so the same applies in property. It's not easy. It's not designed to be easy. In fact, I would argue that it's nature's culling process, culling out those that are interested versus those that are committed. Because there's plenty of people, and respectfully, they're here and they're everywhere, that are interested, right? But it's about getting committed to accomplishing that goal. That's what it's all about. I don't know, and I see countless people who go, yeah, I want to make wealth through property development. Well, that's cool, but you've got to do what the successful people do. Otherwise, it's a pipe dream. Sorry, Cheryl, I cut you off.
No. And being, like you said, having that level of focus as well, is that then actually a strategy to be able to go, don't waste time on stressing about the things you don't have control over, which you alluded to before, and just being able to go switching to, okay, what is the solution? What are the things that I can do instead of oh poop.
Yeah, correct. Well, it's all about looking in the direction of travel, right? So when you drive a vehicle, you drive it looking out the front windscreen towards your destination down the road, right?
Yeah.
When you look at a problem, by definition, you're looking back, right? You're looking back towards the problem, right? So you're turning in an opposite direction, right? Whereas it's all about solution. So stuff is going to happen, right? So to use your vernacular, poop is going to happen, right? It's going to happen. Let me guarantee it here for everybody. And it's going to be stuff that you never thought of, right? It's going to happen. But when your goal means so much to you, when you are so connected to accomplishing that task, that goal, etc., when you must do that, then you're going to find a way. It's not going to be easy, right? The answer may not come to you straight away, but you will find a way. And that's called resourcefulness.
Yeah.
That's called where else can I turn? Who else can help me? What else do I need to do to constantly keep moving in a forwards direction? So you always want to look towards where it is that you want to go. The other thing I just want to say is that this whole personal development thing has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm not making this stuff up tonight for the first time and having this amazing revelation. Like, this has been around for hundreds of years, and it's going to be around into the future for hundreds of years. And that's the way that it works. But the whole idea of personal development, for me, boils down to 3 words. Thoughts become things. Right? So when you think about something, if you think about something in a negative way, in a problematic way, then that's what you're gonna focus on. You're gonna focus on problem. But when you think about the fact, well, that problem's happened, hence it's in the past. I can't change that there's a problem. It's happened. I can't accept it. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. Like, again, don't BS yourself with this stuff, right? But the problem's happened and it's behind you. Now I've got a problem. The next thing is, well, what the hell am I going to do about it? What's my next move? How am I going to solve this thing? Because I have to constantly move forward.
Yeah. It comes going back to something that you mentioned as well, having I was not going to say two big things in your life. And a lot of people, like I said, you've got your business and then your projects as well. When you've got so much happening and it all seems to be spiraling out of control, how do you manage that overwhelm?
Yep.
How do you choose? How do you figure out which to focus your energy and your time on?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, gosh, this is so fresh and relevant for me because, forget about COVID for a second. This first half of this year has been, I would argue, the most challenging for me on a personal level. And you're aware of what's been going on for me. And so, there's been massive things that have been going on in my life and with my businesses. And so the thing with overwhelm is that you've got to break things down. That's how you beat overwhelm. By breaking things down, by going, okay, well, the next thing in front of me is this one thing. Not worrying about what's happening down there, and this may happen, and the market may capitulate, and all these things might happen, and what if I don't sell, and all this stuff. The next thing I have to do is the next step that I take, because I don't get any of that down there if I don't take this one step in front of me. Right. And so overwhelm, and a lot of overwhelm is where people try and solve it in their head. So my advice is grab a pen or type, it doesn't matter, but I like to write things and write down the things that have to be done, because an amazing thing happens when you start to write. Firstly, you release a whole lot of creative juices, but secondly, you take all this stuff that's swimming around in your head and you put it down in front of you. Now that it's down in front of you, you can start to numerically go, well, which bit do I need to do first? Because I'm not trying to solve everything in my head. I'm going, okay, well, let's just plonk it all down here in front of me. Let's take a deep breath. Let's work out. Well, the next thing I've got to do is I've got to do this thing. Cool. Well, let's do that. The next thing after that is I've got to do this next thing. Cool. Well, let's do that. Right. But I see far too many people try and solve stuff in their head. And what happens when they're overwhelmed? They've got an enormous number of things to do. What do? We get overwhelmed and we do nothing. Right. We do absolutely nothing. Yeah, we get paralysis. Right. Because we do zero. So how does that help with overwhelm? Right? It makes it worse, right? So you've got to tackle this stuff head on. A lot of this is uncomfortable. It's yucky, but you've got to tackle it head on. That's the only way that you start to work through it. But, the resilience for me was about, I've got to keep going. I would say to myself in the mirror of a morning, you can do this, mate. Like, I would look at myself in the eyes and I would say, you've got this. You can do this. Right. And I just had to keep going because my goal means far too much to me to let it go. And it wasn't easy. Like, there was plenty of days where I would feel absolutely dreadful, and in a heap, right? But I had to keep getting up. It doesn't mean that I don't have emotions like the rest of us. Of course I do, right? But I also know that I can't stop and dwell on stuff for too long. I have to catch myself, snap out of it, and keep moving forward, because you have to ask yourself, if you're stuck there dwelling on the past, how is that serving you? Right? It's a whole range of questions, if you're dwelling on the past, that you can ask yourself. The first is, what is it that I'm dwelling on? Another is, why am I dwelling on it? Another is, how is that serving me? Another is, what's the opportunity cost? So for me, sitting here dwelling on this thing that's gone before me, that's taking up a lot of my time. What's the opportunity cost by wasting that hour, or that half an hour, or that 2 hours, or whatever it might be, where I could be reallocating that time into a more productive and proactive task, which actually takes me closer to where I want to get to. So there's a series of questions that I go through, that I take my clients through, to help them move beyond dwelling on the past, because it doesn't serve us, but yet we do it. And we because we get fixated on this thing, we can't let it go, right? And a lot of times this stuff happens at a subconscious level, so it happens without us even realizing in a lot of cases. And then before too long, then we start to realize. So you may be in a fearful state, or you might be in an avoidant state and procrastinating, which is linked to fear, and you may be doing it for a period of time, and then you go, gosh, I've been procrastinating for the last day, or 5 hours, or whatever it might be. Like, we don't always recognize instantly when we're doing this. And so the opportunity is to learn how to become self-aware. And it's about elevating your thoughts from your subconscious to your conscious. Right. And so the way in which you do that is go through a daily exercise. Every night you ask yourself 2 questions. And those questions are, what did I do well today? And what can I do differently? Right. And I say this deliberately in that order. Like, what did I do well today? Being, you always want to ask yourself, what did I do well? Right? What are the good things that happened today? Like, get yourself into a positive frame of mind. If you say to people, and think about some of the questions that you've had. If you say to people, how are you going? What typically happens is you get this enormous tale of woe. Oh, that's gone wrong. That's gone wrong. That's fallen over. Blah, blah, blah. But if you say to someone, what went well? What's going well? What's the positive? Oh, gosh. Oh, gee, I've got to think about that for a while, right? Because you want to get people into a positive frame of mind. And then what you say is, what can I do differently? Not what went wrong. Right? Because again, it's happened, right? So if you do this at an evening, right? So it's happened. You can't change it. What can I do differently moving forward? Well, so I recognize, as I look back now, I sort of procrastinated. I avoided that. I had the choice of doing something difficult, and I cleaned my desk, or whatever it was. Cool. Well, now I'm going to recognize, and the more you do this, right? It's not just do it once and then, miraculously you're cured. It's like you've got to do this stuff on and on and on and on. I mean, personal development is a lifelong commitment, right? Because our mind has this negative bias, right? It just wants to go back, and it wants to keep us safe. That's the reason. It's all about, survival. And so you've got to constantly challenge and train your mind, just like you would, go to the gym or do a run. It's just that people tend to focus on the physicality side and forget about the mentality side.
Yeah, I really like that that point about gratitude. And when you're in the moment. And I'm just going to share something, just
please, please, yeah.
Just on the weekend, we the 4 of us, so myself, my husband, and my two little children, we went to Canberra earlier in the week, and we got back and we thought, oh no, we should probably go and get tested, because there was all this stuff happening in Sydney.
Gotcha.
Very, very low risk that we would have caught anything, but just in case. We've got elderly parents and all that.
Yeah.
So we went to the hospital, and 3 hours later, we got out of there. Little things up our noses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, 3 hours with 2 young children in a hospital, trying to get them to not touch anything, is not easy. It was literally, we used half a container of hand sanitizer there. And And we all got to that 2.5 hour mark, and we were starting to grumble. Obviously, kids lose their, their poop at about the 5 minute mark. So you can imagine 2.5 hours in. But the one thing that we came out of that, and I said, we all were sort of a bit irritated. And I said, no. What are we grateful for here? Because we've got everyone, all the staff has been amazing. Like, we weren't uncomfortable. We just had to wait. That was the most discomfort, really. We had hand sanitizer, so we could sanitize away. So once we start to look at things as I'm actually grateful for all this stuff that's happening.
That's it.
And then to come back and go, okay, we all had negative results, the next day. That was when it shifted the mindset of us sort of grumbling and saying, oh, we wasted half an afternoon and all that, because we started talking that way, and our kids were starting to absorb that as well.
That's it.
But it was when we flipped it around and said, hey, why don't we make this fun? Why don't we start telling stories? So I'll start with you and you and you and you and all of that. And it changed the whole mindset and the energy around things. And again, we apply it to, when I apply it to work, and I learn a lot of this from my kids, it's like, when I apply it to work and it's sort of large, amplified in, a more business sense, like, all right, when you have disagreements with partners or the poop hits the fan for whatever reason, look at it and go, okay, step back. And what is the message in this? Or what can I see as the positive that's actually coming out of this? What am I grateful for?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really, really powerful thing and strategy to apply when you are feeling in that state of, wow, everything's sort of, spiraling out of control.
100%, right? And go back to the 3 words that I said earlier, which is thoughts become things. So if you aren't grateful, if you are negative, if you are complaining, if you are whinging, if you are whining, thoughts become things. That's the energy, and I'm going to get a bit deep here, but that's the energy that you're pushing out to the universe, right? You're pushing all this negativity out to the universe. Now, if you believe in the law of attraction, and I do, and I'm happy for people to challenge me on this, but the law of attraction says whatever you push out, again, I'll keep it simple, whatever you push out is going to come back. So if you put an enormous amount of negativity out, well, guess what's going to come back and smack you in the face? Negativity, right? And so this is why people who, when they're in pursuit of a goal, they whinge and they whine and they complain, they compare themselves to the Joneses, they bitch and they moan because they haven't got the fancy car or the big house, and they get more and more frustrated and worked up because they're not where they want to be. But when you push all that out to the universe, well, that's what comes back. You get this enormous amount of frustration come back, right? And so you're never, ever, ever going to get the thing that you're chasing. It'll never happen. But when you say, well, hang on a second, I'm not where I want to be. Again, don't BS yourself, right? This is not BS. This is about, I'm not where I want to be, but by goodness, I'm really happy with the stuff that I've got right now, with the things that I've got, with the friends that I've got, with the skills that I've got, with where I'm at in my journey. I am where I am, but I'm eternally grateful for that. Right? And now all of a sudden I'm putting happiness out to the world. And what happens? I get that back. Right? And so you think about, if I'm grateful and I'm happy, am I more or less productive if I'm happy? Right? I'm more productive. And if I'm more productive and I'm going to be more successful, less successful, I'll be more successful. Right? It becomes this gratitude cycle. But it all starts with you starting each and every day by focusing on gratitude. And at the end of your day, asking the question, what went well today? What were the good things that happened today? I put gratitude down to two things that fundamentally changed my whole outlook, was gratitude and taking responsibility. Like, there's a whole lot of other stuff that I've done, but they are the two cornerstones way back in 2015, when I was a very, very different individual. They were the two things that fundamentally got me up out of the quicksand and moving.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that and number 3 as well, Tony, which I guess is more sort of from a personal point, the power of just having that community and network around you, whether it's friends or family, being able to a certain extent, share the load as well.
Yep.
and not feel that everything is on your shoulders, because sometimes it feels like you've got you're responsible for everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And that's what we touched on that earlier, right? With the Property Development Australia community. It's like, if you aren't, so Jim Rohn, a late personal development guru, a motivator, he said that you're the average of your 5 closest people, right? Well, I believe it's broader than that, right? I believe you're the average of your entire network. So if you aren't where you want to be, then have a look around at the people in your network, and there's a pretty good insight into where you're at, right? And so if you're not where you want to be, are the people around you, are they serving you or are they hindering you? And if they're serving you, awesome, stick with them. And if they're hindering you, then you've got a difficult decision to make, right? The difficult decision is, yes, and you know what, here's the thing, right? Here's the cold hard facts of this, that in a lot of cases, it's our friends and our family, those that love us the most, right, that try to keep us safe, think they're helping us by keeping us safe, right, and holding us back from fulfilling our own destiny, our own dreams, of the things that we want for ourselves. That's what tends to happen. So I think about when I wanted to get into, self-employment. Oh my gosh, right? The conversations with my family and my friends, and what are you doing? You're bloody crazy. You got a high-paying job, and blah blah blah, all this stuff, and the negativity. And these people love me, so they say, right? Now, they were doing it because they were projecting on me their own insecurities, right? But for me, I knew that I had more to give and more to offer, right? So I have another saying. I've got so many, right? But another saying is, may your shoes follow your heart, right? So your heart knows what you want. I'm not just saying you, Cheryl, but I'm saying everyone who's watching in there now, what you truly, truly, truly want to be doing. Right? And my strong suggestion to each and every one of you is to follow that. It's not going to be easy. Not for one moment is it going to be easy, but follow that. Follow that. You don't want to get back to the later years of your life and have an enormous amount of regret to think, well, gosh, in 2020, I had an opportunity and I sat back and I let it go because I was fearful. Because I lacked the courage and the bravery to get in, whether it be property development or whatever it might be. I lacked that courage, and I'm now in my 80s and my 90s, and I can't get that moment back.
Yeah. Tony, I'm going to read out a few comments
here. Oh, please
in the chat as well, so it gives you a little bit of a break.
Yes.
Kate's asked, is Tony influenced by the wonderful Les Brown?
Yeah, he's one, absolutely. So Mr. Motivator, so a great African-American motivator, Les Brown. Look, there's plenty, right? So I'm a huge podcaster. I'm a huge, YouTube motivational clip person, reading books. Done plenty of studies as well. So, whether it be Les Brown, whether it be Tony Robbins, Gary Vee, Tom Bilyeu, Dr. Joe Dispenza, like it's just all of those just, mixed up in a pot, basically. And that's where I consume a lot of my stuff. And it's also a case of, good stuff in means good stuff out, right? So I'm not a news watcher, although I must admit, probably in the last little bit with some of the COVID stuff, I have watched a little bit, not so much news, but certainly if there's a political announcement or something along those lines, I've been very curious as to listen to that. I won't sit there and just watch news on end. I can't do that. So it's about putting good stuff in, because when you put good stuff in, by definition, you get good stuff out. Right. And so I encourage, Les Brown, absolutely. But I encourage all of you to find your person, right? Find that person that you can follow, and really soak it up.
Yeah. And she continues to say, every morning when I wake up, I think of 5 things I'm grateful for. It shifts my thinking straight away. Also, I have a gratitude jar. That's fantastic.
I love it, Kate. Fantastic. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, because there you go. Like, you wake up, the fact that you've woken, not just Kate, but all of us, you've woken up and you've got the day ahead of you. Well, isn't that exciting? Right? Isn't that an exciting opportunity? I mean, it's filled with potential, right? But again, a lot of us will go off to the drudgery of the job that we hate and do the blah, 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 and get in traffic and all these sorts of things. And here's the thing. We all have a choice around that. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment that you all up and throw your job in tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying, right? But what I'm saying is that if you're not happy with where you're at, right, then start to put things in place so that you can work towards it, right? But Kate, I think that's wonderful that you adopt a gratitude practice in the morning, and I'd encourage everybody to do that. I do 3 things, but Kate does 5 in a jar. Hey, good on you, Kate. Keep it up.
And she says, at the end of the year, you have 52 great memories to read
I love it.
I love Jim Rohn. And you know, it's no matter who it is, if it's someone, whether you're listening, like you said, you're listening to a podcast, listening to YouTube, particularly when you're feeling a bit flat. And these are fantastic. Like, they've got so much energy, and you know, really shifts that whole psychology and energy and mindset. So highly recommend. I think that's fantastic, Kate.
Listen
so
to me, you know, so let me
Listen
give
to
myself
Tony,
a plug.
that's
You know
right,
what I mean?
that's it.
So whilst I haven't been on here for a while, but every Sunday morning, can I just give a plug here? Every Sunday morning, a good mate of mine, Luke Moroney, who's a hugely successful property investor, great. Luke and I do what's called the SMS, or the Sunday Mindset Session. We have done 58 Sundays in a row.
Fantastic.
And we do it at 8 a.m. every Sunday morning, Facebook Live. We do it for free, and we talk about a whole range of different topics to help people move forward in their life. So if you're interested, tune in on a Sunday morning. Both Luke and I would love to have you there. Sorry, Cheryl, I just did want to throw a little plug in for...
No, that's absolutely all right. What I want to say, just for sort of, I noticed what time it is. I'd like to have anyone that's tuned in to ask any questions, you know.
Please.
Obviously, Peter Trong says it's the best way to spend Sunday morning. Absolutely.
Good on you, Peter. Thank you. I really appreciate your support.
I do tune in, and I think it's wonderful that, especially on the last weekend, that the both of you managed to have
we were together.
A face-to-face,
Yeah, we were together. We've done that 2 Sundays. Yeah, I know. There was no social distancing. So we did, that's gone out the window. We did 2 Sundays in a row, actually. So the last 2 weeks, it's been, Luke's been in Queensland, which has been pretty fortunate for us. And so we were able to do that. Ordinarily, we're doing it like this, right, as via Zoom. But it's great. It's great when you can't beat the connectedness of being with someone in the flesh, and the energy that whilst this stuff's good, but it's better, right? It's a whole lot better when you're there in the flesh. So it was good.
What are you saying, Tony?
Well, what I'm saying is that this is an amazing experience, and I'm loving it. I may never be invited back, so I better make the most of it.
This might be the line. Sean's asked, do you have a link for that Sunday session? How do people find it? Do you just
follow Luke or me on Facebook. So follow us and come on board, and we're happy to. We'd love to have you there. And again, we design it to be very interactive with the audience, because we want to help people move forward and achieve. And it's got nothing to do with property. Like, I know this is Property Development Australia, but Sunday morning, even though Luke and I came together as mates through property, very rarely do we talk about property. It's all about just dealing with the mindset of moving forward and helping people achieve whatever it is they want.
Absolutely. And this is a great segue into a question that Andrew's asked. What are the key aspects to look for in a good property development mentor?
Someone who's done it, someone who's got the runs on the board. The challenge that you're going to find, and this is not just in property, this is any education, is that there's a lot of pretenders out there, people who are theoretically claiming to do things, whereas I would strongly urge you to due diligence. So no different to due diligence of a property, do due diligence of an educator. Work out what it is that they have done themselves. Speak to students that have worked, who have done their courses. What was their feedback like? Absolutely, they're keys, because there's a lot of crooks out there, unfortunately. So it's about who are happy to take your money, and but you've got to really go in eyes wide open, because a lot of these courses are very expensive. And I see. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people who do these courses and they spend good money on courses, and what they're doing is they're buying hope. And I feel very, very sad for those people. Look, there's some great courses out there, and if you're interested, I'm more than happy to suggest some. But there's a lot of people out there who haven't done property, or maybe not done it for a long time, but are talking very theoretical, but they're happy to take your money, and I think that's incredibly sad.
And Tony, what's the difference between a property mentor and a property coach?
Yeah, sure. Well, the difference between a mentor and a coach is that a mentor is someone who's done it before. So that is that they're and I would even suggest go one step further, which is not only have they done it before, they are doing it now as well, right? Whereas a coach doesn't need to have done it. So the idea of a coach is that a coach is very good at asking questions, clearing blockages, and getting people to fulfill their potential, right? And so you think about in sports, coaches, great coaches don't necessarily have to be the great players, right? Some do. So some great players go on and be great coaches, but the majority or the number of those that are great players and then convert to great coaches is quite small. It's more, coaching is all around the questioning, the listening, the really getting people to come up with their own answers. Now, the benefit for me and what I do is that I actually do both, right? So I do the coaching stuff. So my core business is here, Tony Meredith Coaching, which is I work with small businesses and I work with property people. It's around primarily taking action. Small businesses, it's around sales. But then I've also got my own development that I'm currently in at the moment. I'm up to my neck in it, probably beyond my neck. So I live and breathe the property development and have done for the last 4 years.
Yeah,
and property development was the reason that I was able to leave my day job back in 2018. So whilst my passion is coaching, property development was the vehicle for me. I call it the enabler to enable me to do what I truly love doing, which is to help people move forward, whether it be, again, someone in property or someone in small business. And with property, I have clients that, sorry, Cheryl, I have clients that might be, I've got clients that are renovators, I've got clients that are in rooming accommodation, I've got clients that are property developers, and then also in the small business stuff, I deal with a whole range of different small businesses, from plastics manufacturers to, one of Australia's, leading pool care franchise business, motorbike shops, etc. So I'm dealing with a whole variety of people.
Yeah, and Peter's giving you a big plug here,
terrific.
Tony.
Thank you, Peter.
See, Peter says you've helped him a lot with his mindset. Tony's tough love, but thoroughly recommended. He goes on to say you need a good coach to help you with your business journey, whether you do property or not. And this is where I want to talk about what you're going to be rolling out, Tony, which is a coaching.
Yeah, it's all about taking action. So I go back to a comment I made probably 5 minutes ago, and that is that a lot of people do courses and don't take action, right? And so for me, it's all around the taking of the action. Go back to, if you were here at the start, I talked about the 3 things that create success. The first is knowledge, the second is skills, and the third is mindset, and mindset is the lion's share of that. And it's all about taking the action. So there's plenty of people who have plenty of knowledge around what to do. And I can rattle off a whole range of examples, and I'll give you one where, like in order to find a property, right? There's for me, there's 3 key ways that you can find a property. There's probably more. The third way has very little involvement from me, and that's using a buyer's agent, right? So that's easy. Dealing with a buyer's agent, really simple strategy. Grab a phone, pick it up. Hello, can you find me a property? Right, that's buyer's agent. The remaining 2 are with real estate agents and direct to vendor. Right now, with either of those, you need to have a conversation. And I have dealt with a number of people in the past where the fear, right? So we could sit here and talk about, here's a script of what you've got to say, and here's what you say, and here's the questions that you ask, blah, 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 blah. But the fear of not even picking up that phone and asking the question is phenomenal. It's paralyzed people, right? And so that's where we go through a process to work through, so you can get the knowledge. I mean, quite frankly, if you want to educate yourself, you can Google stuff up, right? Like Google is amazing, right? It's my favorite website, right? But it's the taking the action which is the difference. It's like, I use a sporting analogy. I know you're a lover of sport based on your comments earlier, but it's like getting you from up in the stands, get out on the field, right? For those who follow sports, they talk about match fitness, right? You get fit when you're playing the game, right? And it's the same in property development. When you're playing the game, when you're out there and you're living and breathing it, you're calling up agents, you're doing stuff direct with vendors, whatever it might be, that's how you get match fit. And so it's taking the action. That's the big thing for me. So that's what it's all about. It's about me helping property people, and I say that because it's not just developers. I know this is a developer program, but it's about property people, whether you be in renovating or renovations, or whether you be in rooming accommodation. And again, so let me use rooming accommodation, right? So one of my earlier clients,
star students.
she's a star. I don't know if she's watching tonight, but I don't know if she is tonight, but we've just got something going on in the background here. But one of my earlier clients is in rooming accommodation, right? And now I know nothing about rooming accommodation, but for me, it was all around. She had the knowledge of rooming accommodation. I just had to help unlock her potential so she can go out and do what she's done. She's created a six-figure business in under a year, which is amazing. So that's a good example of how a coach can help, because me, again, I don't know the strategy. I mean, I know a lot more about it now than I did, but I didn't know the strategy when this particular individual came to me. But I helped her get out of her own way to go and do the things that she's done, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tony, before we say goodbye and wrap up the evening, for anyone that's keen to obviously be able to take action, and have someone push them along and be accountable as well, because that's a big thing,
Yeah, correct.
So people might have the strategy, like you said, might have the strategy and knowledge. The next part is taking action.
Taking action, yeah.
And then also having someone say, "Have you taken action?"
Yeah.
As well, the importance
100%.
of doing that. How do you work with your clients? Because I know sometimes you have little mini courses, and then there's obviously the one-on-one and things like that. Tell us what are the ways to be able to work.
Yeah, so I what I'm putting together, or what I put together, is what I call an integrated program. So I do a lot of stuff one-on-one, but one-on-one stuff with me is expensive, right? And not everyone can afford that, because you've just got my time just on you. But what I've been able to do is create an integrated program which has a combination of some one-on-one, some online training, some group coaching, some Facebook lives, etc. So it's a nice mix of different ways that we can educate the various participants in the program. The stuff I love about group coaching is that even though I will be facilitating and coaching that particular session, but listening to what your peers are doing is incredibly powerful, because someone may be up, and I've seen this happen so many times, where someone's up and someone else may be down, and the fact that your peer is up, that's enough to help you create the belief. And go back to the point I said, about half an hour ago, around Roger Bannister. He broke the 4-minute mile, but then all of a sudden everyone went, "Oh my gosh, if he can do it, why can't I?" And I see that in group coaching as well. It's like, well, if that person's able to do that thing, then why can't I do it? Why can't I? And so you might see that one month someone will be up, someone will be down, and then the following month, the opposite, the person who was down is up and the person who was up is down. And so again, the power of group coaching helps lift everyone up. So a rising tide lifts all ships.
Fantastic. So is there something that you, in terms of group coaching, that you have in place at the moment?
Yeah, it is. So it's a property action coaching program. So talking about it now. So if you're interested in learning more about it, just put say yes, please, or you can email me directly if you want. It's Tony at tonymeredithcoaching.com.au. I'll put that in the show notes. It's Tony at tonymeredithcoaching.com.au. That's my direct line. So that's not any VAs or anything. Whilst I have an amazing VA with an amazing company, Cheryl. But that's my direct email, so please feel free to email me and just ask. Thanks, Cheryl, and just ask, inquire about it, and I'll send you some stuff through. I had hoped to get a link organised by tonight, but didn't quite work out. But that's okay. But reach out to me or put something in the notes, and if you just put it into the comments, yes, please, or tell me more or whatever, we'll get in touch with you and give you more information. But it's all about integrated training, integrated coaching, and again with the specific outcome of getting people to take action towards where they want to get to. I'm not going to teach people how to do subdividing or how to renovate or how to do rooming accommodation. There's wonderful, wonderful programs out there, and again, I'm happy to recommend a number of those. But what I'm going to teach people how to do is how to take that knowledge and apply it and take action and achieve the property goals they've got for themselves.
Absolutely. You've got a very keen participant here, Sean. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please.
Oh, great. Terrific. Thank you.
So I can put Tony's details on the Facebook comments as well once we're done. And when does this start, and how long does it go for?
It's going to go for 6 months. So I think 6 months, 6 months is a good time. I mean, if I could get people sorted in a session, well, then it'd clearly cost a whole lot more if that's how quickly we could do things. So whilst I'm able to, work my magic and make change, it takes time, right? It takes time because I said it earlier, you've got this thing called the subconscious mind, and we have been doing certain things for a long period of time. As humans, we're based off patterns, different patterns. And we've got patterns of things that have been going on maybe since we were kids, right? And so to think that we can unwind that instantaneously, well, it just doesn't work that way. So it's a 6-month program, and that's enough time for us to get up and running, get you moving, stick with you. It'll be group coaching every fortnight as well. So going to be some one-on-one time with me, then group coaching every fortnight. And that's all about the accountability. Hey, last time you said you were going to do A, B, C, and D. How'd you go? And if you did it, awesome. I'll be there to pat you on the back. And if you didn't do it, well, okay. Well, let's talk about why you didn't do it and what happened and what was the reason that got in your way. And, there's a whole range of reasons. Sometimes they're legitimate reasons, and other times they're not so legitimate reasons that you've convinced yourself they're legitimate reasons, right? So there's a whole, but it's about the accountability, and also then you're a part of a community. So just like you've got a community, it's about creating a little community of action takers in property to help each other move forward and achieve their objectives.
Fantastic. Good stuff, Tony.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I think that was a whole lot of gold there. So I want to say thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
Namaste. I think
thank you.
Love having you here as always, Mr. Tony Meredith. Thank you everyone who contributed, came and spent the last hour with us, which is fantastic. Wonderful. Kate says thank you so much, Tony, Anthony's and Andrew. Thanks, Tony. Everything you said made perfect sense.
Terrific.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
To everyone out there, be safe, be well, stay positive. And if you would love to get in contact with Tony.
Yeah, and follow me, Facebook, so Tony Meredith Coaching, and Instagram, Tony Meredith Coaching, and LinkedIn, and YouTube, and all the great channels. That's
just
where
Google Tony Meredith.
That's where you find me. And
ignore the other Tony.
And that's what I call him too. So I call him the other Tony, Tony Robbins. So he's the other Tony. But reach out. I'm more than happy to help people as best I can. And as I said, please, if you want more free advice from me, dial in on a Sunday morning, Sunday mindset session with my good buddy Luke. And as I said, there's nothing to do with property. It's all about mindset and helping everyone move forward as best we can. So, hey, Cheryl, it's been a real privilege. It's been great to be back again, to get the band back together. It's been a while, but it's been a real thrill. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
We should definitely do this again very
absolutely.
soon. And hopefully in person.
Wouldn't that be nice, right? Wouldn't that be lovely?
How nice would that be? Thanks, everyone. Have
Fantastic.
a fantastic evening. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.